Hi, it's Geis again. Welcome back to the God Success Secrets video series. This is week 8, and today I have some good news and some bad news for you. I'm going to give you the good news first. The good news is that when you set out at the beginning of this series with that one specific goal in mind, you know, that goal that you wrote in your journal. And if you don't have a journal, remember, just log on to www.godsuccesssecrets.com and get a free one. But when you wrote that goal down, the good news is that that goal is entirely possible for you, because all things are possible with God. But I must admit, I have to share some bad news with you today. And the bad news is that you're going to have to do a lot of work to reach that goal. Because today's success secret says dinner before dessert. Now, at one point, when the idea for this ministry was just a thought in my mind, but I was spending a lot of time writing and planning and thinking about how I wanted everything to turn out. And I felt like I'd been working for months and months and not gotten any results really from what I was doing. And I was telling the Lord one day, God, this is really hard. I'm doing a lot of work here and I don't feel like I'm progressing. And the verse he shared with me is the verse I want to share with you today. And this one means a lot to me. It's Jeremiah 31:16. And it says, this is what the Lord says. Restrain your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for your work will be rewarded. And I read that as tears were falling down my face. So that means a lot to me, but your work will be rewarded, but you have to do the work first. Now, there's a story that in my mom's family about my grandfather, and you know how I love to bring objects to our little videos, so this is one of my dinner plates. And the story goes that my grandfather, he and my grandmother had 8 children, and they grew up down in the South, and at the time their children were little, they still cooked outside. They had to pump water from a pump outside, a little hand pump. And so I'm sure that washing dishes was not one of the favorite chores in the house. So my grandfather would use both sides of his plate to eat. So if the family had dessert, he would use one side of the plate for the dessert, and then he'd flip it over and eat dinner. And yes, you heard me right, my grandfather would eat dessert first, and then he would eat his dinner. So Grandpa had it backwards, but that's just a fun story about my grandfather. Now, I have a friend who I think really exemplifies this idea of dinner before dessert. She went to college and became an elementary school teacher and taught first grade for a while, and then had a son, and she decided to be a stay-at-home mom for a while, stay at home with her son. So she resigned from her teaching job, and her family grew. She ended up with 5 children altogether. And when the last little girl was born, her husband decided he didn't want to be married any longer, and he left her. Now, this was devastating. This friend hadn't worked in the workplace for years and years. She had been home taking care of her children. She didn't have a teaching license any longer, but she was stuck. She only had a few months to pull together some kind of career for herself, some way to support these 5 kids. So she went around our little small town and found a job at a bank. Now, if you knew my friend, you would know that a bank would not be an appropriate job for this woman. She loves to work with children. She loves to be physically active. Sitting behind a desk in a suit or something is just not her. And she was miserable at this job. And so after she was at it for a few weeks, she decided, I can't do this any longer. You know I've got to make money for these kids, but I'm going to have to find something to do that I really love. So as she was thinking about that, she said, you know, The thing I've always really loved was teaching and teaching young children. So she decided to go back to school and re-earn her teaching certificate. The nearest college was about an hour and a half, 2 hours away. She signed up for classes, and nowadays it is a little easier. You can do some things online, but still, she was a single parent with 5 kids. She ended up working as a substitute teacher to kind of get her foot in the door at the school while she is taking college classes that are an hour and a half, 2 hours away from home. It was a stressful time, a busy time, and she was doing a lot of work. She was putting her work in. And it took her about 3 years to finish her degree. But when she came out, she had not only updated her license, but she had earned a master's degree in special education. So you think, okay, finally she's made it. But not quite yet, because in order for her to be an elementary school teacher, there has to be an elementary school job open at the school system. And there wasn't one for quite a few years. But there was a job at the high school as a special education teacher. So, as a way to, get her foot in the door once again, she took the job as a special education teacher at the high school. Now, she was a great special education teacher. She's just a good teacher overall. She generally cares about students, but working with high school students was not her calling, wasn't her favorite thing to do. She enjoyed it, but her heart was really with the young kids. So one year, a kindergarten teacher resigned, and she applied for the job, and she didn't get it. So she was disappointed, and the next fall went back to her job as the high school special education teacher. And then another kindergarten teacher resigned, and she applied for the job again. And this time, she got the job. So now she is working as a kindergarten teacher once again, doing a job that she truly loves. She has the summers off to spend with her children. She keeps about the same hours as her kids, so everything has worked out great. So that is her reward. I mean, she was rewarded for all of her hard work, but she did do a lot of hard work to get there. And it wasn't just overnight, I'll try this and see how it goes. It was a long process of planning out which classes she needed to take to get her degree, and driving to the school, and finding babysitters, and getting loans to pay for the classes, and then doing the job that wasn't her ideal job, but she knew it was a step in the right direction, until finally she landed the job that she had hoped for so many years before. So she definitely put in her work time. She ate her dinner before she got her dessert. So my question for you today is, how hard are you willing to work for what you want? As you think about what that thing is that you want, is it going to be worth all the work that you're going to have to do? And you might not have any idea about all the work that you are going to have to do. I know when I decided to become an author, I thought it was just a matter of sitting down and writing a book. I had no idea of all the other stuff involved in it. I didn't know how much work I was going to have to put in. And there comes a time when you have to sit down and ask yourself, is it worth it? And if it's worth it, then you're going to have to be willing to do the work. But sometimes if we concentrate on all the work that we have to do and we lose sight of our reward, it makes us feel like giving up. So what I want you to do in your journal today is I want you to write down all the rewards that you will have in your life if you accomplish that one goal that you set for yourself at the beginning of this series. Are you going to have more free time, more money, more ability to help others? Are you going to have a better relationship? Really think through, how can achieving that one goal change your life, what are all the rewards going to be? And I want you to write every reward down you can think of. What are the doors that are going to open up for you if you accomplish this one thing? And when the work gets challenging, and it will get challenging, remember to look back at that, at the reward that is waiting for you when you do your work. Because God says your work will be rewarded. So this week, get out there and do some work. And I'll see you next time.